Let's get into it indeed. I get to say those magic words that every college football fan loves to hear: game week. How about that? We've made it, y'all. Our long national nightmare is over, and it is time for the Large Program Tigers tonight. Welcome in. John Maddox, your host, joined as always by the best co-host in all the land. We will start with our northern office, Mr. Brian Moss. Brian, how are we this evening?
Doing pretty good. I mean, it's almost fall up here because at night it's brisk, and when I wake up in the morning to go to work, the cold weather, I can feel it. It's coming.
Yeah, it's brisk. Yeah. Larry, how are things? I believe you are in the. No, actually, let's do this properly. It is time for everybody's favorite game show. Where in the world is Larry Marley?
I am in Atlanta tonight, and I am in mourning. I think we all are.
Yeah.
Our beloved Dolly Parton passed away today at the age of 80. And for those, many of you know, I actually went to Dollywood this summer with my kids, and I got to experience that. I would encourage all Tennesseans to do that at least once in their life. And the actual coat of many colors is actually in the museum there. It's a sight to see. But I think Dolly Parton, if you think about Loretta Lynn and Dolly Parton, I think that those two people embody the differences between East Tennessee and West Tennessee. I mean, if you don't know, Brian, if you want to know the difference, here it is. Because Dolly Parton writes a song telling Jolene to please don't take my man. Loretta Lynn writes a song about taking somebody to Fifth City.
And you ain't woman enough to take
That's
me man.
the difference, right? That is the difference between those two. Like, there's just a definitive, and that's not to take anything away from Dolly. Tremendously gifted, and it is a far worse world today than it was yesterday.
Yeah, I was trying to think like she and Mr. Rogers have to be like the two people that nobody has any. I've never met anyone that's like, damn, Mr. Rogers, screw that guy, or to hell with Dolly. Like, just two genuinely good humans. But anyway, the world is a bit darker today because of Dolly Parton. But we will try our best to liven things up here as we head into UNLV. We'll have Mike Cooper from the Scarlet Standard along at the bottom of the hour, along with Erik Procius with MemphisWeather.net to give us that first forecast. So before we get too deep into today, I wanted to play something. We had our media availability today with Coach Huff. We have one media availability a week, and Jeff Calkins. This is a little long; it's about a minute and a half. But Jeff Calkins asked about, what do you know about the team, and that kind of led into this discussion about why none of us tweeted a depth chart today, because there is none and probably won't be any. But I just, he said some things that I thought were interesting and from a perspective I hadn't thought of. Take a listen.
If I had Johnny's starter, his agent's going to call. The backup agent is calling him saying, hey, I can get you out of there. Is that going to happen Saturday? Yeah, but let's at least get to Saturday. Okay. Like, that's my philosophy. All right, there's more to this now, and I understand the fans want to know, and I want the fans to know more. There are people looking at our roster right now. The reason I won't put a depth chart out. There are Power 4 teams scouting our roster. How do I know it? Because everybody's doing it. And I'm not against it. It is where we are. But the more information I give about how good a player is, hey man, this receiver, whew, man, I can't wait. Well, some P4 school's gonna write it down. And they're gonna track it. Is that gonna happen anyway? Yes, but I'm not gonna do anybody else's homework. You have to watch the film, you're gonna have to read these articles, you have to look at PFF. Like, I'm not gonna do your homework, right? So I understand, and trust me, I'm not one of these coaches that think that things don't get that. But I do have a responsibility to protect these kids as long as we can. There are a lot more things that have infiltrated college football now that affect these kids that everybody doesn't think about. So I know, trust me, after the game, Jonah will know before kickoff who the starting quarterback is. You'll be able to get an interview with him. You'll be able to know who the starting center is. You'll know how good we are. You'll know if Coach Huff sucks. Like all of it in 4 days. But until then, I've got to kind of protect the guys in the locker room until we can get them ready for battle.
Realize it. There we go. Um, Brian, I'll start with you. I hadn't thought about it, but that's an interesting perspective on no depth chart because I was very busy being old man yells at cloud about not having things to prepare for a game. But I think what he's talking about there, Brian, is probably a pretty real scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it's a viewpoint that I really haven't thought about. But I mean, after you hear his explanation, you get it. I don't like it, but I get why he's saying it, and I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's just it's a part of college sports that the direction it's going. It's this part I don't like. It just, like I said, it's unfortunate, but I understand why he's doing it. And I mean, he sounds genuine when he says, I'd like to get, I don't want to keep something from you, but I mean, he's going to have to protect his program, and I get that.
Larry?
What? So, how did we get here? Like, that's the question. How did we get to the point where a coach cannot post a depth chart to the public? I'm sure they have one internally. And I'm sure there's got to be one in the locker room. There has to be, because otherwise the players wouldn't know what team to practice with.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
But how did we get here, folks? And this is just a question for everybody. Like, we've jumped the shark. When we are to the point where the week one, your coach cannot post any kind of a depth chart because he's afraid that some program's going to come and try to steal someone just because they didn't get named a starter. I mean, that is asinine to the point of. So, at what point does the NCAA or somebody step in and say, okay, after this point, you can't come and poach a kid, right? I mean, it would be like, all right, it would be like in the NFL if so all right, so the Vikings named their starter, okay? Kyler Murray won the starting job. So some team could come along and try to take the Vikings backup quarterback. This is ridiculous. And he's right. He's just doing what's best for the program. But my problem with it is, how did we get here? And what are we going to do about it to prevent this? Because college football right now has a problem. And until we fix it, this is just, it's not us. Like, we can do a show with or without a depth chart. It'd be better with one, but we can do, like, I think we all know probably who the starter is going to be, but I don't, starting quarterback. I don't know for sure, but I think we do. But that's not the point. The point is the fans should know so that Calkins can do a story on him, so that the CA can hype up the starters, so that we can all embrace this team, and that's what we're losing. I'm sorry, it's just we're losing something.
Well, me in particular I feel like I'm between a rock and a hard place because, to my detriment, as you all know, you haven't agreed with me, and many of our listeners don't agree with me. I am for free player movement. I am 100% go where you can make, because it's what we all do. We all get to make the best decisions for our families and so on and so forth. And I don't know why student athletes who are, providing lots of revenue opportunities to schools don't have those same rights. But I do think we have reached a critical mass. Now, you ask how does this happen? The NCAA says this. Well, it's just like coaches. that Mike Norvell did, or Ryan Silverfield did not speak directly with Arkansas until the end of the season last year. That's what his agent's for. That's what the intermediaries are for. Um, Plausible deniability, and you're going to get that with players too. But I think even I'm at the point where we got to have a guardrail. We've got to figure something out. When guys can go to an NFL camp, not make an NFL roster, and come back. Now, I do think this is not going to be a trend because the numbers don't bear it out, and this is all because of the class of 2022. But what's going to stop a group of guys in the class of 2023, from suing and saying, "Hey, why can't we come back?" You
Hmm.
know, so it's a Pandora's box. The Big Ten came out today and said you can add a player from the end that went to camp or signed or withdrew, went to the NFL and didn't withdraw. Your coach is just going to sit out half a season. Um, and if I'm the Big Ten coaches, I'm livid about this because my job is to win games, and you damn well better believe I'm going to take every possible opportunity to win games by the rules we are given. And Memphis is not immune to this. Coach Huff talked about it. He said, we got a couple guys we're waiting on some clarification legally. Had four guys, two guys, and two of them have the exact same set of circumstances, and one of them's got the waiver, and they're waiting on the other waiver. And there are probably some guys in this 22 class that Memphis would be interested in. Um, but I thought it was a different perspective. I hadn't thought about it that way, from why you can't just put things out in public um, like that, because then what keeps Mississippi State's SID from getting a hold of the depth chart and giving it to the coaching staff, and now they know to go watch film on this particular guy because the Memphis coaching staff thinks he's their top opportunity. I don't know. I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to kind of lead with that.
Yeah,
Also,
but at the same time, though, Memphis can do the same thing. So I mean, it's not like everyone's looking at the Memphis depth chart. I mean, the G6 schools can look at the Power 4 schools and be like, "Hey, you're low on the depth chart. You could start over here." So
yeah,
I mean, it goes both ways.
yeah. I don't think there's a good but I also think that you can't put it back in the sack at this point, right? Like, you
Yeah.
just can't. We can't go back to where we were.
No, but but you're right. Guardrails is what we need, John. We need guardrails so that I'm like you. I think player movement is fine up to a point. I do think they should be limited to two transfers within 5 years. I just don't think moving year to year is wise for the kids. Not because of the money, but because they're 99% of these kids are not going to play in the NFL, and doing that limits their educational, right? If you keep moving, then you can't get a degree. And so that would be my problem with the whole thing. But as far as we should not restrict like that player movement other than that. I think they should be limited to two. But aside from that, I think the 5 years is great. But yeah, we should they should not be limited, but they shouldn't be able to just go out and start talking to kids. There should be dead periods, just like there always was. And that dead period, and if you catch an agent talking to someone in their dead period, then they're kicked out. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's just so hard to police. I mean, it's. I'll just be blunt. It's just that's going to be impossible to police because even the agents have runners, and if the agent's not talking, which not talking to the kid, then the agent is talking to the kid's dad or the kid's mom or the kid's
well,
uncle, and it's just you can't police that part of it. Um, but I don't know. I think
there is a solution, and we will find it. But I think right now we are in a really bad place.
I
So
couldn't
anyway,
agree more. All right, so one of the things kind of in line with that, as I asked Coach Huff about last week, and then again today, how do you prepare when you can't go back and watch film on the team you're playing.
Spend a lot of time on yourself. You know, you got to spend a lot of time dissecting your schemes, your rules, your adjustments, and you're really kind of just giving, I would say, what you think may happen. You know, there are some plays that they run that maybe they only ran it because they had certain players. There are some plays that they run that maybe it's part of their DNA. But you're really just testing your rules, your checks, your adjustments. It's really how much do we know about ourselves? And then you've got to hopefully the player's experience can kind of react, right? Certain formations equal certain things.
So that was about my question, which I meant to include, was how do you prepare for a UNLV team that has a lot of new players and that, they do have some continuity, but now you've got Jackson Arnold in the mix, Brian. So, what are the challenges behind that? And I thought he was right. It's you just got to worry about you and do the best you can, and whatever they do, you just got to be ready to adjust. And I think now more than ever, in-game adjustments are going to be massive in college football.
Yeah, and when with the coaches that return for another year, like Dan Mullen, I mean, you can go back and see the trends for his offenses. So you know what he likes to do. Now it doesn't mean he's going to do that same exact thing, but you can at least prepare for something. Um, so yeah, it's going to be a new team, but it's still the same head coach, and he has tendencies just like everybody else, and that's something you can prepare for.
So first game of the year is usually, this is why you normally schedule someone who's a little bit of maybe an FCS school or someone that you feel confident that you're a lot better than, is so that you can feel yourself out and figure out what you're doing. Because the way this works is the first thing you got to figure out is what you do well. And then you can really, because he's right. Like, it's fine to go and look at somebody else's tendencies, but the first thing you got to figure out, because you've got a brand new team, right? You got a new team too, and every year is more or less a new team, even if you bring back players. So this first game, this is a challenge in two ways. Huff's got to figure out what his team does, and he's got to figure out what UNLV does, right? And that's, so to your point, John, this is going to be an adjustment game. This is going to be, hey, we thought this guy was really good. Well, he's not doing what we thought he was going to do. But this other guy over here is killing it, right? Whereas next week, you'll have a pretty good idea of who performs under the lights and who doesn't.
Well, and I asked Coach Huff, or actually Devin Walker asked Coach Huff, what do you do? Do you worry? Do you have a certain thing you do for the first game?
Actually, if we didn't have to play games, I would be great. Because I love the practice. I love the preparation. I love the meeting. The game, I mean, I'm literally standing over there just yelling at refs. That's what I do. Every once in a while, I yell timeout.
Well, at least somebody finally said the quiet part out loud. These coaches don't do anything. And of course, that was in jest. But, he's he's just cut from a different cloth. Moving on, we also had the opportunity to talk to Manny Covey today. And one thing I have noticed kind of, and I don't know if you guys notice this with how the whole team operates. Nobody will ever say, oh, I think I do this really well. And for example, I asked Manny Covey today, you got a plethora of running backs. There's just one football. How have you guys kind of worked that out amongst yourselves?
To be honest, with the running back room, man, we all great in that room. It's great when we walk into that room. So it's like, to be honest, we don't care who goes out there first, how we do it, rotation wise, whoever on the field gonna get the job done. So that's how we see it in that.
And that's just not true, is it, Larry? That's not how it works in the locker room.
Let me say this: unless you are just not a competitor, that's not how it works at all. And I will say this: there's a point, especially when you're not number one on the depth chart, you are looking at that other guy and going, okay, what is he doing? What are they doing? What are they doing? And you're watching their technique. I did anyway. And then, but when you get to number one on the depth chart, then you're looking back and going, okay, what is this guy doing? And how are they, because you're trying to A, keep your job, and B, you actually do want to be the best for your teammates, right? But yeah, that's not no.
Yeah, that's not how this works, Brian. That's not how any of this works.
No, but I mean, I get why they say that. I mean, because you
Oh,
want to
I know why
project
they
that,
say it. It's
yeah.
just bull.
And so, but of course, we're from a different generation. So maybe this newer generation, maybe they're more kumbaya than we were. I doubt it,
Well,
but yeah,
I think I've just found it interesting that that's kind of been a theme is, when you ask
yeah.
the coaching staff, hey, because I asked earlier in practice, like, hey, has any one group stood out to you? And of course, the answer is no. Everybody's been great, yada, yada, yada. And that's been just kind of a consistent thing. But that is one of my big concerns. And we'll get more into that as we go into the game. But is there's one football. And when you've got a plethora of running backs and you don't have a guy that a lot of people think, oh, that is the guy, then that can sometimes create a bit of a logjam. We're going to step aside for just a minute. When we come back, Mike Cooper from the Scarlet Standard will join. Well, I thought he would join us. He he just
He
dropped
was
off.
on.
That's
And
right.
then
He
he
was there. He left. So we'll keep rolling here. But yeah, I just
So
I did want to mention we had alluded to it earlier. So Frank Bonner asked today about does the team know who the starting quarterback is? And with the storm over the weekend, the coach said that kind of put a bit of a hitch in the plans to tell the team and to tell the two guys. He said they have told the two guys, here's where we are. If the game were today, here's where we are. And if the game were today, player A would start, and here's why. But they haven't officially announced anything. They haven't told the team anything yet. Again, is that coach speak? Who knows? But we'll see. Well, it's that time of year. It's the first game of the season, and I thought I would give Erik Procius with MemphisWeather.net the opportunity to come on and give what will probably be the easiest first
I don't think we
forecast.
play in a dome, do we? After this,
Yeah, I don't think so, but even if it were outdoors, I think Erik would have a pretty good handle on the forecast. Erik, how are you, our friend?
Hey, I'm fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you. Can't
Okay,
see you,
because
but we hear you.
my video's on. I don't know what's going on with that. But hey, we all have to work through the week one or week zero little problems that
That's
we
right.
come up with. So, yes, it's in a dome, which just to remind everybody, I'm grateful obviously to be back again with you guys this year. We did go 1-0 last week. Every week it was 11-0, I think was the record on the weather last week. So undefeated starting the season, and with the dome, I can guarantee. Well, unless there's a sprinkler problem or something like that, we should be dry inside the dome. It is going to be hot. If you guys are headed out towards Vegas to enjoy the weekend out there and take in the game as well, it is summertime in Nevada, and that means it's going to be really hot. Although the heat could break just a little bit on Saturday, it might only be about 104 for a high.
Good.
So, it's you take what you get.
break out the coats.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Very, very small chance for rain. It is going to be pretty breezy out there. They get quite a breeze in the heat of the day. So keep that in mind as well. But otherwise, should be looking pretty good. Inside the dome should be a nice, comfortable, about probably 72, 74 degrees. No wind to deal with. So hope everybody enjoys that. Back here in Memphis, we look like we should get a few thunderstorms for the next couple of days, but here this weekend looks to be pretty good as well. Fairly low humidity actually, so even a 90, 92 degree temperature won't be too bad here. So we're looking forward to that and restoring everyone's power from this last weekend. So hopefully, cross our fingers and say a couple prayers, we can get everybody back on here very soon.
Erik, tell everybody how they can follow the weather forecast, not just for the first forecast, but every day.
Yeah, certainly. MemphisWeather.net. You can find us on the web. Make that website into an app on your phone by saving it to your home screen. We're on all your favorite social media channels and updating routinely every day of the year. Hopefully, you'll tune in and check us out at Memphis Weather 1.
Thanks a lot, Eric. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Eric Procius, MemphisWeather.net, with our official first forecast of the season. Always great to have Eric along. And we are pleased to be joined by Mr. Mike Cooper from the Scarlet Standard, who will bring us up to date on all things UNLV. Mike, how are you this evening out in the hot desert of Vegas?
You're muted.
Let me see. Let me see if I can unmute him. Yeah, there.
Should be good.
Oh, sorry,
Oh,
I muted myself when I went back. Am I still muted?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Like I was trying to say before I was on mute, locally Saturday's games indoors. It's been over 100 pretty consistently. Summers in Vegas are always brutal. There's no ifs, ands, and buts around it.
Yeah,
doesn't begin to describe it. That doesn't, not even close.
yeah.
Brutal doesn't describe it.
The whole dry heat, wet heat thing is absolutely nonsense. It's just absolutely ridiculously hot. All right, so Mike, let's kind of get rolling here on UNLV. We'll kind of start off the field, maybe rewind a little bit. There's a lot of dispute about how true it was, but there was a lot of talk around Dan Mullen in Memphis when the opening was here.
Ironically, I was in the middle of some of that beef that was going on. I got talked about by Memphis radio because I kept, I know and follow this team pretty well. I didn't have any inclination that he was actually going to Memphis. I didn't understand where that came from.
Yeah,
I can tell you that, and so can they.
Yeah, well, but I wanted to move more towards, there was some level of flirtation on one side or another, whether it was fans or whatever. So how does the UNLV fan base, what is their relationship with Dan Mullen like? Because you guys live in the same world we do, that if he didn't leave to go to Memphis, he's going to leave at some point to go to a bigger job. So what is the relationship like between Dan Mullen and Las Vegas? Because it always seemed kind of like a little bit of an odd fit in some ways.
He embraces the Vegas fan base, and he embraces living here. He's very comfortable here. I've been on the track. I'm a fan of UNLV. Obviously, that's why I do what I do and cover the team. But my opinion, I don't see him leaving unless it's for the right job. I think it would have to be the right fit. I think he's one of those guys that's been there and done that. He's been at the highest level. He's grinded from being an assistant to taking the smaller power forward job to the bigger power forward job. I think it would have to be the perfect storm and perfect situation. I don't know how true the reports were, but they did talk extension with him in the offseason, and it didn't go anywhere. But I think that Rebel fans know. I think that with the upward rise of the program, 30 wins in the last 3 years is something this program's never seen. They know that it was inevitable that Barry Odom was going to leave. When he took that job at Purdue, it was just a matter of when, especially with the rise of the program. And I think the fans feel that with Dan Mullen. And I think that the expectation is, if he's going to leave, you better leave on winning a Mountain West championship at the minimum, because that's something this school has never been to. And it's something, and the expectations are the highest this program's ever seen.
When you take a look at this team this year, and especially this game, I know Memphis coaching staff and Memphis fans, they'll look at the UNLV defense and be like, "Oh, that's a place where we can exploit." And when I take a look at it, I mean, it's amazing to me that yes, they were in the bottom half, but they did pretty well, against on third down. But what stuck out to me really is giving up the big plays. I mean, they were nearly, they're in the bottom half when they give up 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, all the way up to 70 yards, long plays from scrimmage. What have you seen or what do you think is going to change this year about that UNLV defense?
Well, I think the first key is Paul Gunther got a full offseason. Dan
Mhm.
Mullen originally hired Zach Arnett. There were some wild Twitter rumors on what happened with him. Ultimately, the official thing was he resigned. So Gunther did take over in basically the beginning of fall camp last year. So you were looking at switching a defensive system for guys that were recruited for a different system. You could see the progress from the first 6 games were not pretty. And I think every Rebel fan and anybody who watched the team who was genuinely interested in what Dan Mullen was doing could see that. But the last 6 games, they were great. They held, I think, 3 straight opponents under 17 points. They really started to lock in when they were trying to get that run to get back after that New Mexico game. But this year, they have a lot of returning guys. They're secondary. They're very gritty, very fast. Jake Pope returns, Quindarius Keys, Trey Fulton, and Mumu Bin Wahad. You can see that the full year under Paul Gunther and the full offseason and full install has done wonders for this defense. And I think that everybody, including fans, but everybody around the program, especially on the media side, is expecting this defense to take a big jump.
Go ahead, Larry.
So, let's switch over to the offense. One of the things that I noted last year was how even the offense is between rushing and passing, more or less yards per game. So, Dan Mullen's known for his pretty high-powered offenses. How does UNLV's running game stack up this year? Because last year they really relied. I mean, it was even 50-50. But this year, do you see that being the same, or do you think he's really going to open it up?
Oh, I think UNLV has arguably the best group of 6 running back in the country in Jet Thomas.
Right.
Jet Thomas is an electric ball carrier. He had some injury issues last year. He didn't get a lot of touches, but you saw the flashes of how good he is. He stayed loyal to UNLV. He averaged 7 yards a carry last year and rushed for over 1,000 yards. He was preseason pick for first team all conference. I was one of the media members that was surprised that he wasn't picked for conference player of the year. But having him back and having a guy like Jalen Glover, Dan, who transferred from Utah last year, he was the 3rd running back last year. They also have a staple of young guys in that running back room. It's going to be, I think, that what you can get from Jackson Arnold and what you can get from Alex Orji are 2 different things. So you're going to have compliments if per se, because Dan's on the same boat as Huff, where he's not going to say who starts, but both will play. And everybody knows how they used Orji last year in special packages and things like that. When he's in the game, it's going to be a more physical ground and pound type of game. I think when you had like a quarterback like Anthony Calandra last year who could do a little bit of mix of both, that he was able to open it up more. I mean, Calandra did throw for 3,400 yards and rush for over 600. And you had a running back with over 1,000. You had another running back yet over 500, and you had another running back over 400. I think, he really did. The offense was never the issue. My concern, if I had any about the offense, is they have some returning players on the offensive line, but they added a lot of transfers. Their offensive line is big. The average size is 6'4", 305. So he brought in, the smallest guy is our center, who's 6'4", 305. So, and he was formerly a guard. So you're going to have more run block schemes that's going to open the strength up for Jet and for Jalen Glover. And you saw a lot of that in fall camp. You're seeing him open it up more like he had at Florida and like he had at Mississippi State. But I don't think he's had a running back like Jet Thomas.
Go ahead.
You're muted.
You're muted, bud.
Week 0 for everybody. I think that the part of the game that kind of gets overlooked, but it's really, really important in a week 0 situation, is special teams. So talk a little bit about the kicking game for UNLV.
So UNLV has their kicker returning, Ramon Vallea. He made 15 out of 20 kicks last year. He talked about a lot in fall camp of getting better, being more consistent. He's only a sophomore, so what a lot of people don't know also is UNLV's special teams coach from last year left to go to Florida State. I think it was Florida State or USF, one of the two. So Dan Mullen actually took control of the special teams. He took priority of special teams during all spring camp. he named Mitch Singler the special teams coach late in spring camp. So having a lot of what they've talked about on special teams is especially the last media scrum that Ramon Villa and Matt Chules, their punter, had talked about was how involved Dan is in special teams. So I think there's going to be a lot of different variations of what they're able to do. Going back to the kicking game, he hit a 50-yarder in their bowl game last year. He had some really good moments. He had some really bad moments, but what kicker doesn't? But having somebody back, and he was named preseason All Mountain West by Phil Steele. So having that in your kicking game, and obviously kicking inside Allegiant Stadium, definitely helps.
What about the return game?
Jet's the kick returner. It's been between Jet, D'Angelo Irvin, and Taz Reddix. Jet was their Jalen Glover and D'Angelo Irvin were their main kick returners last year, but they've for what all the portions open to the media, it's been Jet Thomas back there in the kicking game. So it's gonna be a heavy dose of how they use Jet all over the field. He's been involved more in the running game. It opened up last year in the passing game as well with how he was able to catch out the backfield, and now they're throwing him back in special teams. He was in Barry's first season. I think it was his first season or his second season. He was one of the main kick returners, and he ran one back to the house. So I think that they just want to get the ball in their best players' hands. They play their starters on special teams. They're willing to, they know how much of an importance that they have to have on it.
Larry, Brian, you guys have anything else?
Brian, yeah, I got one more. Brian?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
All right. So let's talk about Jackson Arnold since you've mentioned him earlier. I think we pretty much assume he's going to be the starter. And I know it'll be sort of a by situation, but he's probably going to be your main starter. Some of his strengths, he's got a really nice percentage. He completes 60% of his passes, and he has he's not what you would call a dual threat, but he can run a little bit. What do you think he adds to the offense?
So I wrote an article a couple days ago about if Dan Mullen could unlock what Oklahoma and Auburn couldn't in Jackson Arnold. And there's a lot of talent that's there in Jackson Arnold's game. Out of high school, he was more known for his throwing ability than his running ability. The running game was always part of that. But when he got to college and the speed, especially in the SEC at the high level he played at, the game was very sped up for him. And he got thrown into the fire right away at Oklahoma. I thought he performed pretty well at Oklahoma. And you saw flashes last year as well at Auburn. I think with a guy, it's a very similar situation to what Anthony Calandria had. Anthony Calandria was an inconsistent starter in the ACC. And then Dan Mullen built the offense and put pieces around him that were able to play to his strengths. I think you're going to see, with a running back like Jet and the young receivers that they brought in from the transfer portal as well as their recruiting classes, you're going to see a lot of unlocking of what Jackson Arnold can do. One of the things that Dan Mullen said during media days was when Jackson got on campus, it was more, he asked Jackson, what can he do to help him? Not what can Jackson do to help the team? So they've been on the same page of what's going to work and what's not going to work. I will say the quarterback competition has been a lot closer than what people think. Alex Orji has taken a big step forward in his throwing game. It's always going to be inconsistent because that's just how Alex Orji is. But he has taken a big step forward. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does get some serious throwing the ball as well. I mean, but I'm with you. I would be shocked if Jackson doesn't start. I hope he doesn't do what he did last year and put both of them on the field. But granted, that was Idaho State and this is Memphis, so that's different. But yeah, I think that, to get back to your point, the young Jackson Arnold was willing to take chances before understanding which ones were reasonable, which ones weren't. And now when you have a guy who can focus like Dan Mullen can to unlock his game, you can definitely he's definitely going to be able to unlock the arm talent.
Brian, you have anything else?
Yep, I'm good.
Mike, we're going to put you on the spot. What happens Saturday?
I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot closer game than people think. I think there's going to be a big filling out process, and I'm on the page of what Dan Mullen said yesterday. Dan said yesterday that a lot of people are going to be talking about this game going deep into November. and it's going to be one that I think is going to have eyeballs on not only for a lot of the Group of Six world, but for the CFP conversation. I think UNLV squeaks one out by a field goal late. I think one of the things is going to be what the keys to the game is how the UNLV rebuilt offensive line. I was actually just writing a piece on this before I popped on how the rebuilt offensive line goes against the Gundry and Charles Huff defensive front. No matter where Charles Huff has been, the defensive fronts have always been good, whether it was at Southern Miss or Marshall, or even when Gundry was at Miami as well. But I think that UNLV does squeak out like a 31-28 victory. I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be a slow start, and then you're going to get a lot of fireworks, middle second quarter on. And it's going to be a big filling out process. But I think Memphis. This is one of those games for Memphis too. It's very similar to what UNLV was going through last year. When Dan came in, they had 70 new players as well. So I think that you're going to see a lot of bright spots, a lot of down spots, and you're going to be, what the hell was that moment, and what's going on in this game moment too. And I think it's going to be a great game all the way around, though.
Mike, tell people how they can keep up with you and the Scarlet Standard for the game.
Absolutely. So all of my social medias are the same. It's SS_media LV. Or you can find me and all my work on my website, the-scarlet-standard.com. But yeah, I can't wait if you guys are in town, I definitely want to meet up with you guys and connect with you guys at the game as well.
I will be there on Saturday. Looking forward to it. Once again, thank you, Mike. Appreciate your time, and we will see you on Saturday.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike Cooper from the Scarlet Standard joining us tonight from Las Vegas. All right. Well, here we are. Now we all predicted a win last week, correct?
No,
No.
I had us losing.
All right. So I'm waffling. So Larry, I will start with you. What are your thoughts? We'll do scores, of course, at the end. But
I think Mike's dead on. It's going to be relatively. I think it's not going to be a very high scoring game. I think he's right. There's going to be a feeling out period. There's going to be. I think it lasts longer than. I think the score at half. It would not shock me at all if it's like 14-6 or something like that. But I think he's right. It's a late field goal. I've got it 35-31 UNLV. Memphis will cover, but they're not going to win.
you weren't supposed to give your score yet. We were going to do our thing.
Oh, sorry.
Brian, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with Mike. I think there's going to be a filling out process. I think both teams will be challenged at times. I go back and forth on the scoring, if it's going to be high scoring or not. Because my first thought, last week, I think I said it's going to be a high scoring game. And then I'm like, well, I more think about it. It's the first game of the year. Definitely that filling out process. But yeah, I still think it's going to be a higher scoring game. I think the second half is just going to be blown wide open. But yeah, it's going to be fun. And I wouldn't mind seeing more of these games. I know, the first game of the year, you want a lesser competition, but I like having a challenge right out of the gate.
No, I'm going to tell Coach Huff you said that, not me.
He won't like that.
No, he won't like that at all. So I think we are all on the same page here that this is, and Jeff Calkins summed it up perfectly. He said, everything's a mystery, and I think that's a great word for it. Everything is very mysterious here, and I think that having no expectations going in is both difficult and fun as a fan. From a fan perspective, because you just, when Coach Huff said it, he said, we're just going to see what we see. We just see what we see. We see what we have. His concern is not, are we tough? He said, we're going to be one of the toughest teams in the country, but how do we respond? If Memphis gets up 24-7, how do they respond? If Memphis goes down 24-7, how do we respond? If UNLV takes the opening kickback, how do we respond? He said that's what he wants to see, and that's kind of what I want to see. I know the pieces I think we have on this roster. this is going to sound weird. And Brian, I think you said this a couple years ago, and I'm going to get on that train this year. I am much more excited about the defense than I've been in a very, very long time
Yeah.
because Memphis has some dudes, as the coach would like to say. Memphis has some dudes. We saw Jamon Tapp today, and he is already in game mode. He he's a different cat. And somebody asked him today, what song do you listen to? What's your pre-gaming? I don't listen to music. And he's just yeah, he's different.
Hmm.
He made that. Was it Phil Steele that did the freaks list, or somebody else that did the freaks list? The athletic freaks. He made that list.
Hmm.
Now, really, kind of seeing him in person, he reminds me a lot of Javon Curse. He's got these really long arms. He's real rangy. But he is a focused, locked in dude. And I'm very excited to see what the Memphis defense does on Saturday. A couple notes. Randy Shannon, Coach Huff, did not beat around the bush. I was very pleasantly surprised. That report came out earlier today that Memphis was in the process of, or was going to hire him. And Coach Huff said that they were, quote, working through the red tape on that. So that answers one of the things. We'll get to that in a second. But let's do our thing here. So, Brian, we will start with you. Let's see, 7 o'clock, 10. So that'll be what? 10, that'll be midnight Central, 1 a.m. for you. Right?
Yeah.
So
My boy.
We'll go
I'll be up.
10:17 p.m. Pacific time. The Allegiant Stadium scoreboard will say.
I think it's going to be. I'm still going to stick to my gun, saying it's going to be a higher scoring game. I did look at the stats as Mike was talking, and he said that the UNLV defense was better the last 6 games. Well, I just did the last one. I did in this November. They still gave up a ton of yards. They were better. Instead of like 117, they were 56. But when you take a look at the big plays, and that's what I keep looking at, the big plays. Even in November, I mean, take a look back real quick. They were 114th in big plays, 10 yards or more, in the month of November. So yeah, while they did improve overall defensively, they still give up big plays, and I want to see them stop it. So until they can stop the big plays, I can only assume that they're going to continue to give up the big plays. So I'm actually going to see Memphis in the range of 45 to 38.
Wow.
Yeah, like I said, I can see the feeling out period, but I also see I don't see them improving enough to stop the big plays. I mean, they're a year older. I get that, but a lot of the players on Memphis defense came from Southern Miss. I take a look at Southern Miss's defense. Southern Miss's defense was better than UNLV's defense. I know the competition and all that.
Right.
The way I see it, I like the makeup of the Memphis defense better than the UNLV defense. I think both offenses are going to have just a field day. But this game is going to be who can stop the big plays, and I'm more confident in Memphis stopping the big play than UNLV.
I think this is a game that Memphis wants to be a Tony Allen special. Memphis wants and Zach Randolph. Memphis wants this game in the mud. That's what I think would behoove Memphis, is to have this game in the mud. I think that, much like we said with Silverfield coming off of the Norvell years, Memphis fans are going to have to get used to winning in a different fashion this year. Memphis's defense is just stacked. I don't like. Well, I mean, the facts are, though, that between Alex Orji and Jet Thomas and Jackson Arnold, you've got guys, especially Jackson Arnold, you've got guys that have played in big games, big time environments. That matters. Memphis is going to roll a quarterback out there, regardless of who it is, that hasn't played in a real, in meaningful spots in big games through an extended stretch. So I think that's an area of concern for me, is Memphis can't lose. Memphis can't lose this game getting off the bus. That's if if their emotions aren't in check and they go out there and UNLV gets the ball and goes down and scores, they kick it off. Memphis goes 3-and-out. UNLV scores again. Memphis goes 3-and-out. Like that's the kind of thing that could happen. But I think Memphis is going to slow the game down. They are going to. I really think they're going to try to keep it in the mud. And I've got this 24-22 Memphis. I don't think it's going to be high scoring at all. I think that as the numbers climb, Memphis's winning chances probably go down. But I could be wrong. We don't. This is the thing about Memphis. This might be a 48-point per game offense at Memphis. This might be a 27-point per game offense at Memphis, and we just don't know. And I like coaching, kicking, and quarterback play in the first week of the season. The coaching's a pretty dead heat. We don't know about quarterback play. We do have to assume that Jackson Arnold or Orgy, whichever starts, and they're both going to be on the field for the first play. By the way, that's one of my odd predictions here is that they'll both play they'll both be on the field the first snap. But I also think toughness plays a big part, and I really feel like this Memphis team is going to be really, really tough, especially up front. That's how they seem to be built. But again, we've seen them in underwear and t-shirts, and we've seen them talk. But the lights come on Saturday. But I do think Memphis wins. I just think this is not going to be one of those pretty. Oh, Jeb says the Tiger defense pitches a shutout.
That'll be something.
That would be something.
This week, or is he talking about another game?
This week, I think I think again that this is a Tony Allen Zebo game. This is a let's get this thing in the mud. Let's make it as dirty and as ugly as we possibly can. Let's not get in a shootout, and then just let's see where things fall. So,
what about bold predictions? Mine for the first one of the year, I'm going to say Tap gets 4 sacks.
Whoa! I'm going to say that the Tigers have 3 interceptions.
I'm going to say that the Tiger defense scores.
Let's go.
We all went defense.
Memphis is going to score. Memphis is going to have a safety. I'll get really specific.
I thought about that, and I also thought about we have a return for a score. But I think you guys nailed it. That this, if we can get it into the mud, if we can turn this into we can run the ball, possession, keep their defense on the field. That's how you win this game, right? Is if you let Jackson Arnold get comfortable back there, and you don't pressure him, like he's good enough. He's gonna score points. Like it's just gonna happen. The numbers, even when he was at Auburn, and when he was against that, keep it a knife fight, right? Yep. The numbers, even when he was playing behind that awful offensive line at Auburn, he was very effective. And I mean, that's awful by SEC standards.
Awful by most standards. They were terrible.
They were. And look, he can run too. He was. I thought Mike was absolutely right. Like when he got into the SEC, he really struggled because of the speed differentials. But like he can run, he can move. You've got to keep him off the field and when he does get on the field, pressure. Pressure him and make sure that he's not comfortable. Because if you don't, I think they definitely have an advantage in quarterback play, at least from what we've seen. I think that's a fact.
Well, but the other thing that and neither of them are freshmen, and I don't mean this, derogatorily, but Coach Sales told me one thing about basketball one time. He said the good thing about freshmen are they're too stupid to be afraid. And that's also true of newcomers. They're not going to have, Marcus Stokes and Nolan both strike me as guys. There's no fear. Like there's no back down. They're not going to go out there and freak out, but it's just making plays when you have to, do that. So
Does
a
he have
couple,
a go-to receiver? Who
right?
does he look to on 3rd and 4? And he's got a guy in his face. I mean, all of those things are things that they got to figure out. And that's why that's why you don't play a game like this, Brian. Sorry, first game of the year. But anyway, I'm going to quote you. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So Memphis, as we said earlier, in the process of hiring Randy Shannon, and I think you're seeing one thing from this Memphis staff that you did not see from the previous staff, and that is Charles Huff knows he doesn't know everything, and he hasn't seen everything, and so he's going out and hiring guys that have seen a lot. He said in the presser today that not only did Randy Shannon come in, and the players actually went to bat for Coach Shannon and said, "We want him on staff," and Coach said, "You go tell him." He said, "We told Mike Montgomery, you go tell him you want him here." And then Randy Shannon played mom and sent him back and said, "You tell Coach Huff if you really want me here." And then the whole thing was, "I don't have a tree of money, but how do we make this work?" But I think it's important. You go back, and I say it every damn year. You go back, and if you ask Justin Fuente, without fail, what was the most important thing that ever happened for you? And it was hiring Daryl Dickey, and it was having that old hand. And you've got Coach Guidry, who's been around and seen some things. You've got 2 or 3 guys on the staff that have spent some time in the world, and you're not going to get anything by them. And that's a difference from the previous regime, if you will. Also, a bit of scheduling note, to no one's surprise, Mississippi State canceled the 2028 game at Memphis. And also, not just Memphis, they canceled the same on Southern, and they canceled Tulane road games. And I just want to say, a lot of people say, "Oh, they're scared." Here's the reality. Number one, they had no business scheduling those games anyway, because there was nothing to gain by them playing Memphis in Memphis other than appeasing the fans, which, if we've learned anything over the past few years with college football, it's that nobody gives a crap about the fans. But number two, there's even less of a reason for them to play good teams on the road now. Memphis is not, we will never see Mississippi State on the schedule again, because I think by the time and they moved
30.
the return game 2034, actually. So they moved that return game far out. I don't think college football will look anything like it looks now. So that's why.
Though, this was an interesting one. I saw that today. I wondered if Memphis was in a Power 4 conference by that point, would that change their mentality?
No, because they're not going to be a part of the same organization that Memphis is a part of.
I see. Okay. I think that's probable. Well, we're assuming that. That's if that's the case, then you're okay.
But to Brian's point, that's why I like this UNLV game. That's why I like the Boise series. That's why I like the Toledo series. Play the best of the best, because you're not going to get a lot of those step up opportunities if you're Memphis anymore. You're not going to get.
Arkansas is never coming back,
and we're not going over there because they're trying to work out of that game now, and they have no desire to play Memphis. And I don't.
I don't blame them, but you're never going to. I don't even think we could get a 2-for-1 now.
No,
I really don't.
Not. I think that's why this Toledo game is a big game. I think that's why it would behoove Southern Miss to remain good for Memphis. That's why it's important that Arkansas State is good. That's why you play Troy when they're good. That's the whole thing. Is this isn't about you. This is about Mississippi State protecting Mississippi State's self-interest. Take that for what it's worth. It is what it is. But
sure.
All right, fellas, we made it.
Guys. First one in the books.
Week 1 is down. I will hopefully be, Lord willing and creek don't rise, I will be in Allegiant Stadium on Saturday. We're, of course, going to have stuff for you all week long. Kind of hard to have a lot of numbers this week because there just aren't any numbers yet. But we'll gen up some things.
So, one thing, I will probably not be on the show next week because I will be recovering from knee surgery. If I am on, I will be surprised, but I will try to be. And I will.
If you are on, it'll be
everybody my broke knee.
it will be one of our more interesting broadcasts if you want. Well, best of luck to you, sir. I hope
Alrighty.
all goes well, and
All right.
we will see you when you're healthy. So for the best co-host on all the land, Larry Brian Moss, John Maddox signing off, saying we will see everybody next week.
Thanks for joining us this week for Tigers Tonight. If you love our show, feel free to share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Tigers Tonight is not affiliated in any way with the University of Memphis, and all opinions expressed here are the hosts and guests' own and are not affiliated with their employers.